Hi, my name is Todd Brown with Brown's Barbecue. Been in business here in Midland, Texas since 2003. We started out with burritos in a cooler, and we've grown this operation to a full restaurant sit-down eatery that services 5 days a week. We do off-field catering, we do team building activities, and we also service just everyday customers. Sure. If you go to www.teambuildingmidland.com, that's teambuildingmidland.com, it has all of the information there. But we initially started the idea partnering with a local company here called Bear Claw Knife and Shear. And what we did with Bear Claw is that we would reach out to B2C, which is business to customers, doing date night, friends and family, just actually individuals coming to want to be with friends and family and date night. And I didn't have a lot of steam with it. And so I ended up doing the B2B, which is business to business, and creating something different for those actual corporate individuals to be able to create team camaraderie and team unity. And it's really a really nice, unique way for them to actually service their team. They had a really good time with that. We've held about 10 classes now, and so we're getting pretty good at it, and we're having a lot of fun with that. Actually, we do prep some stuff beforehand, but I'd say 75% of it is them interacting with the skills. So we have everything prepped as much as we can, but the bulk of it we'll allow them to do. So like today's theme was surf and turf. And so I taught them how to make a maitre d' hotel butter sauce. I don't know if you know what that is. We had them do the prawns, which was butter poached. And then everyone got to tell me what size steak they want. I cut everybody's steak, but they grilled them. And then we also did lobster rolls. I taught them how to make a lobster roll. And then we also did the mac, which was the say no more, the item that you like.
That sounds so good.
Yeah, I normally like to book those 2 to 3 weeks out. That way we can make sure to accommodate the actual regular service that we may have. And so this team actually wanted to do it earlier in the day, which is good for me, so I can be off by a decent hour. Some of the teams, they like to do it in the evening, so they go from 5 to 7. Each course lasts about 2.5 hours. And so, but we get right down to business. I tell them about who I am, how I started, and then I challenge the team. So like today, they learn why to use knuckles and claws when you make a lobster roll, as opposed to the tail. Just things like that. How did surf and turf evolve? What does surf and turf mean? And so I really try to interact with them and kind of let them really feel like they're learning something.
Yeah.
Surf and turf evolved. It's land and sea, and I'd have to get into my presentation, but I don't really know a lot of this stuff by heart. I usually put it up and talk as I present.
Okay.
That way you don't feel like you're having to know everything, because I don't know everything. I have presentations that help me out,
Okay.
but I can definitely pull it up and tell you how it evolved. Let me do that. It was me and another guy, but he didn't do like I did. He didn't drive around like I did. And what he ended up doing was just actually going out of business. And so I started with just burritos in a cooler, driving them around town, and then I ended up getting a flatbed trailer to where I was able to put a barbecue pit on it, along with a stove and a propane bottle, and then I was driving around town. And then the city pulled me over one day and said, "No, we can't let you do it. You got to get it this way." And that's the mural of the very first one that I made.
Okay.
And so I got that done, and I was compliant, but I was always about freshness. Getting out, getting to a location, jumping out, making the burritos right in front of people. And surf and turf evolved with the North America during the 1900s. Likely gained popularity in the United States and Canada. It's a symbol of luxury dining. First mentioned back in 1962, the Toronto Globe, describing a combination of lobster and steak. So surf is land. I mean, surf is sea and turf is land. And so it's those combinations of the two. And so there's a lot of variations of them. You go to these fancy places, you know, they'll do filet mignon with scallops or, you know, it's just a combination of the two.
Do you have a preference?
Personally, I like filet mignon Wagyu, filet mignon bacon wrapped, and then I always like scallops. And I like fried butterfly shrimp.
Okay.
But when you saute them, it's just something about that maitre d' hotel butter. You know, it's partially, it's got oregano in it, a little non-alcoholic white wine, and you just mix it with the Kerrygold butter. That's the best butter out there. Yeah. Well, it's just always been in our DNA. My father owned 2 restaurants in California back in the late 50s and early 60s, and even up into the 70s. I remember him having a restaurant, and I would go out to California and spend 3 months out of the summer hanging out with him and getting to cook with him and stuff. And then back in '02, he passed away, and I promised him that I would keep his name going. And that's what I've been doing for the last 23 years. But, you know, as I work on my exit, you know, what's next for me? You know, legacy, or, you know, do you want to leave it to someone? You know, it's just the ultimate goal is the franchise, get that going and, you know, create standard operating procedures and actually let it ride off into the sunset. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, my dad did barbecue. Yep. Actually, there's a picture of him in the mirror up there. He used to bottle the barbecue sauce in mason jars.
Oh, okay.
Because back in those days, 50s, 60s, they would take your ideas from you, you know, and just, you know, steal your ideas, and you would never know. Yeah. And I don't ever know if he didn't want to go through the process as far as non-disclosure agreements, as far as having it tested with pH levels, having the barcode manufactured. I don't know if he ever wanted to do that or couldn't learn that or didn't want to do it because he didn't trust people. You know, you have to think back in those days, you know, people just didn't trust people. Yeah. And so whenever I sent off the recipe to have it manufactured, a part of me died because I knew I had no more control. Although I did do the non-disclosures and things like that, but all barbecue sauce has the same basic ingredients. It's just, you know, how you put a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And that's why you see so many recipe books, because your variation may call for a pinch of salt, when my variation may call for a pinch and a half of salt. So you can't patent a recipe, but you can patent the method. Well, no, I didn't have a patent for it, but I have it manufactured through a company out of Florida. It took me probably 18 years before I decided to do it. You know, I would make them in barbecue, just like he did, mason jars, slap a sticker on it, you know, because the cottage law, when you bake, and some small goods you can do from your home. But as I evolved and I said, you know what, if I want to ever go to the next level, I have to do this. So I sent the recipe off, got lawyers involved, got everything done that I needed to do to protect myself. But I'll never know if they, you know, don't protect the recipe. I'll never know. But a part of you feels secure because you did to go through the process. Yeah. But that's the sauce that you see over there on the counter over there. So yeah, we sell them. I got them in 4 different stores here locally. You know, but the ultimate goal is to get them, you know, to, you know, big box. Yeah. So we'll keep hammering away at it. Yeah. Well, a lot of it's trial and error, you know, being 24 years, but then you come to a point in business to where if you want to get to another level, then you have to seek that guidance and instruction. So I do a lot of like seminars, and I do a lot of, you know, YouTube stuff. Shark Tank was on my radar at one time, but just trying to get it out. But for the most part, I'm still one of those guys who like to do the work, and so it's easy to pay somebody to do stuff for you, but it's more satisfying and gratifying if you do it, and so that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yes, I do a lot more on Facebook than TikTok, but TikTok is really gaining a lot of popularity. There was a guy who came and did a food review, and it's got almost 100,000 interactions, and so people are coming all the time. And like I told them, my business is so inconsistent. People will try to show up and, oh man, this guy's closed, because I've never been able to just let people do the work because I'm wanting to be the one to do it. So like catering is a perfect example. Gas is up, oil is up. These guys are fracking away. They call me to go cater, I'm gone. I'm not going to be open waiting around for somebody to come in and buy a $10 plate when I can go out and sell 200 plates for $70 a plate. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
A no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
And so people are like, well, man, how are you going to ever get consistency? Well, it's been 24 years and I'm still here, so apparently I'm doing something right. Absolutely.
Okay, gotcha.
The bottles that I sell retail, but here that what I use in-house, I make it still.
Oh, okay. So only your retail stuff, the stuff you have for sale,
is being manufactured.
But you still make all your stuff.
Yep, I just made a 10-gallon batch today.
Nice.
Well, my dad did just basic barbecue, like, your chopped beef sandwiches, sliced beef, ribs, that's what a lot of barbecue places do. They stick to that, but as I evolved, I think I talked to you about, veganism. If you have a party of 15 people and one can't have animal protein for whatever reason, you're going to lose 15 sales by not trying to accommodate one. And so our menu is very, very broad. You see the green asparagus there, that symbolizes vegan. So you look up vegan food here, we'll pop up and people find it so ironic. And like I say, in business, you have to be able to not be limited. If you limit yourself, then that's what people think of you as. Yeah. Or barbecue. Even though I have the name Brown's Barbecue, but people just call me, Mr. Brown. They know this guy has all kinds of stuff. And so that's one of the things I'm going to have to work on if I want to grow or franchise or you have to scale at some point, cut everything back because everybody can't prep everything and do everything. You can only show those robots. You look at Chick-fil-A. I love them. Prime example. My friend owns the franchise there on Garfield and Wall Street, right there on the corner by the hospital. His name is Jason. He always tells me, you got to scale at some point. They got 6 menu items. They'll dib and dab and other little stuff, but it's chicken, and fries. And they sell a lot of it. Well, most of the burritos, it would be most of the brisket burritos, things like that. Most of the barbecue things that I'm really known for, the train wreck, that's an option. Everybody says, man, that train wreck, it's just a mixture of love. We put everything in a pot and let it, marinate with each other and just put a little dollop in a tortilla. It's nothing like a quick, fast, cheap meal. Because people are having it hard. They can't always go spend $60 out to go out to eat, but they'll come buy $5 worth of train wrecks, and I still have that option as broad. They can spend up to $1 or up to $70 a person. It's whatever they want to spend. Yeah. And so those home run items, they have to stay. We'll do the burgers, stuff like that. We'll definitely do the chicken. Things that we offer, fried chicken, fried fish, but just I would scale the vegan options down because right now we got about 18 vegan options, but we would scale that back some, but yeah, I'm not there yet. Right now we're taking advantage of this another boom that's coming. A lot of guys have told me get ready. So that's kind of what we're preparing for. Got all our infrastructure in place. So when the catering's called, we're ready to go. I have two daughters and a son.
Okay.
Yeah, but they don't have anything to do with the business. They grew up in the business. They didn't want nothing to do with it, and it's kind of unfortunate, but it is unfortunate. But kids have to grow up and do their own thing. I suppose for the most part, you have to let a kid grow up and be their own selves. So one of my daughter works for the city of Midland, got great benefits. Her kids own insurance. 401k. Things that slaving for your dad won't allow.
I understand.
and my other daughter, she's still trying to find her way. And my son works for an oil company here, but he lives in San Angelo on 5 acres of land.
Oh, okay.
She works for me full time.
That's awesome.
Well, you have to keep the main thing. So like for her role is primary administrative, making sure, numbers are buttoned up, making sure that finances are buttoned up. And then I do the day-to-day, the ordering, making sure I schedule people, making sure that inventory is abundant, knowing what's, on the verge of spoilage, knowing what to order and what not to order, just because we met in a restaurant.
Oh.
She was a server and I was the kitchen manager. So that's how we met. So she know when I'm in this space, I'm a little grumpy, so she knows to give me my space when we're here. And then when we're home, it's different, you know what I mean? And then I give her space when she's at home, trying to make sure that these invoices are averaging out, knowing what money went where. So we both have our role, but the advice I would have for individuals that, it's hard to work with friends and family. I don't know if you know that. It's just, you got a friend and family members, it just don't work. But we met working, so it's a little different for us. And so like my daughter, she's quit on me 5 times, so she's been working for me and this is the last time she's doing her own thing now, but even friends I've let try, it just doesn't work. So the main thing I would advise someone, if your buddy said that, hey, we can go into business together, I would think twice about it and really, really know the pros and cons of, because I'm not the only one who say that. It's fact. Friends and family don't mix.
Very rarely does it mix.
Very rarely.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a few exceptions, I would say.
Yep. Well, one thing I would advise someone who's starting out is to stay small. Because you make a little money, don't think you can go make money and buy this and buy that. Used equipment is okay. Save your pennies. Because when you start making money and you see the fruits of the labor, the natural instinct is to want more. That's what people can't understand about us. They're like, man, you've just been the same because I'm content. Humility is okay. It's okay to be humble and not have a lot. Because at the end of the day, when you die off, they're just going to say, oh, that guy had great food, but this guy over here got better food than he had. And they're going to forget about you anyway. So it's what internally is what makes you happy. And so I've always taken pleasure in being small, being humble, interacting with my customers. You're not the first person that has felt some sort of way when they come in here. I treat everybody that way because I appreciate them coming in here, because I know without them, it wouldn't be no me. And if you got somebody else greeting them in the front that's grumpy, like perfect example today, I was in HEB this morning around 6:30 buying groceries for my cooking class, buying all the stuff I needed. And the lady was so grumpy, and I was like, you should smile more. And the thing I'm thinking of, if you're in customer service, you should always be happy. You should always be friendly. If you're having a bad day, no one cares. You're in customer service, and that's, the world just needs more love. People need to be more friendly, and you can go so much further just with a smile. It doesn't hurt you to smile. Being here in my space. This is all my accolades on the wall, all my things that I have, because when I used to work for Cattle Baron Steakhouse, it was always just back there working, back there busting it for someone else. And, no TVs. I got 2 TVs, March Madness is on now. If I wanted to turn that on, I'm watching basketball. Just being here in my space it brings me joy. And providing great food that's cooked with love and from the heart, because you can get anything anywhere. You go to a fast food place, they're just flopping your stuff together fast as they could. Like when I was eating Chick-fil-A, I'd go in, they say, oh, there come Mr. Brown. They know they have to drop me fresh stuff because I don't want everything that's sitting there.
Yeah.
It's all about freshness with me. Vegan, if you're a vegan customer, you have to have the Beyond Steak combination burrito. It's a mixture of the potatoes, the beans, the Beyond Steak. I mean, they're doing really, really well with these plant-based options. I've actually fooled a person before who was a vegan, but when they actually made me take a photo of the stuff that I used because they promised me it was meat. And I was like, it's not meat, I promise you. Oh, I've been vegan for X amount of years and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, my wife is vegan for the last 15 years. And I got tired of going out to eat and no one knowing the difference. You ask about rice. Well, I don't know. I think it has chicken base in it. Or you go ask about the beans. Oh, they got lard in it. Nobody really knows and no one cares. And my wife's main saying is, no one cares until they have to. If they have to care and start watching what they eat, then they care. Yeah. For the non-vegan eaters, for the meat eaters, you got to have the brisket, the mac, and the green beans, and the Brussels sprouts. I'm finna go in there and make it right now. An impossible burrito with plant-based impossible meat, the potatoes and the beans, sauteed. Yep, I ate a lot of that stuff. Yeah, I've lost over 60 pounds. But I do taste, a lot of brisket and stuff just to make sure the palate's still right, make sure everything's good. But yeah, I've lost a lot of weight, being veganish, I always say, yeah. And people find it ironic, like, man, what, you don't eat? I don't, man, and I don't miss it, For me, steak was my favorite, though. Like I said, the Wagyu tenderloin. But when you eat it, it never would go down. You'd have to drink hot tea, you get acid reflux, you burp in and stuff, and it's like, man, what's wrong? You never could, force it down. So you have, like I say, drink hot tea. But with the plant-based stuff, I don't get that. Yeah. You know what I mean? I can digest it just fine. Yep. One of my mentors is a gentleman named Ro Patterson. He owns several businesses. He actually now owns a company that actually lends money to people, and so he always would tell me, just stay after it. And so that's that. I've always held that true. And it sounds so cliche, but when you stay after it, like always evolve, always look for the next thing, always try to continue to separate yourself from the people, because leaders lead and followers follow. And so people will follow you and watch what you're doing, but you have to continue to evolve and continue to separate yourself. And so that's one of the things that I've always held dear. Like I say, that's prime example with the team building, doing cooking classes, going to seminars and seeing what's next. Like in my food truck, people say all the time, I don't see you on the streets selling food. I said, no, we've evolved from that. I don't have to be not necessarily on the street selling food. Well, how do we get you to come out? If you say you got 100 plates, I'm gonna go. Yeah. Because it's guaranteed sales. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I did those 270 steaks or whatever. Yeah. Guaranteed money. Mm-hmm. I don't feel that, because I've already done that. It's yesterday to me. Mm-hmm. That's what I used to do yesterday. What are you doing different today that's gonna continue to evolve? How are you gonna stay after it? And what are you gonna do next? it's real common. You know, I want people to feel like they're part of this. I want people to feel like they're at home. People come in and share personal stuff with me all the time. You know, and I tell my wife,
I'm
I
the
said,
therapist.
I was like, wow, babe. I said, everybody always, she said, that's because that's just the way they feel when they come here. They feel like this is home. And that's special because you don't get that everywhere else. And so that's in order to transition to being open later in the evening, to staying open late, to scaling, you know, how do I instill in someone who wants to try to work for me those morals and values? That's the challenge. And so that's why I've never ever done it, because it's like no one's going to care like I do. And so the fact of the matter is, I just keep doing my thing, making whatever little money I make, and it is what it is. Because at the end of the day, you're in this upper echelons of millionaires making a bunch of money, or you just stay down here in the bottom and just keep getting by. And that's what we're doing. We just keep getting by. Well, thank you, Texas Spines, for this interview. Always check Google for accurate, up-to-date information about Brown's Barbecue, because we're normally open Tuesday through Saturday, 7:30 a.m. on Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays till 4. Tuesdays 11 to 4, but things always change. But we are always accurately up-to-date information on Google.
Okay.
So we would encourage you to come on in, but don't get discouraged if you can't come. But I promise you, when you do, it'll be worth the wait.